Any bidders?
Mr Chairman.
I have the Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr Chairman, Part 2 of this bill provides for the appointment of commissioners for the important functions in Canterbury, and I want to point out specifically such provisions as 21 and those that put quite onerous consultation requirements on these commissioners. But the main reason I wanted to make a call is to engage with Kennedy Graham, who made a thoughtful contribution around this issue of the commissioners and their functions. He rightly pointed out that under the Resource Management Act, I have the power under 25A to appoint commissioners to take over all or some of the resource management functions. I also endorse the remarks by the member that the real concerns that the government has, and I think they are widely held, is around water management in Canterbury. We do have a big challenge there. And the question he put is, why has the government chosen not to use those 25A powers, appoint commissioners to get on top of those issues in the water area, rather than the provisions that are in Part 2 of the bill, where the commissioners will take over all of the functions of ECAN? And that's a good question. I want to respond to it. The great difficulty is that if I use those powers, effectively I'm going to have a set of commissioners in charge of Environment Canterbury as well as the elected council. And my advice, and actually the advice from Environment Canterbury itself, was it was going to be very difficult to splice out of Environment Canterbury these all-important water functions. And we could actually end up in the worst world, and that is almost a two-headed monster. Nobody's sure who's in charge. Now, if there's anything of which I think there is agreement around the water issues in Canterbury, is that it requires clear and strategic leadership around those issues. And I'm not satisfied, and nor were the key parties of which I consulted with, that by using those 25A powers, of which the threshold to use them has clearly been met, that would actually get on top of the issue. In fact, I would make it worse. But I'd equally challenge Kennedy Graham in this respect, in that he and his colleague Sue Kedgley have given an impassioned plea that it's an affront to democracy to have these commissioners. Yet in his speech, he said it would be fine for me to use my powers to appoint commissioners to take over the water functions. Well, there's actually a logical inconsistency there. To say that it's okay for the minister to use powers provided for in law at the moment for those commissioners to take over the most contentious and difficult issues in Canterbury are around water, that's okay. He would support that. He would recognise that that was a good step forward, but to do this is wrong. I think there is a serious logical inconsistency in the Greens' position in that regard. So these provisions that the government has taken, as Rodney Hyde said yesterday, we have taken them reluctantly. But this is the right way forward. And I say to members like, well, Leanne Dalzell, who's chosen to go, it's always interesting when you can't play the ball, you play the man. When you can't respond to the substantive issues, members on Labor's side of the House have chose to go into the area of personal denigration. And whether it be in terms of, well, for instance, Wyatt Creech. Now, for instance, well, no, the members went a lot further than that. I would point out to the ranting members of the Labour Party that this report has been prepared by 4 people, by Wyatt Creech, by Martin Jenkins, by Greg Lowe and by Morrison Lowe. Well, the chair was Wyatt Creech. And in the same way, did members of our side of the House choose to be heavily party political when Mike Moore was appointed to roles, when Helen Clark was appointed to roles, when a whole number of MPs have been appointed to roles? I really do think it says something about the quality of the roles from members on Labor's benches that they actually want to play the personality game. They want to play the personality game because they're not prepared to confront the substantive issues. Those substantive issues are that we need clear direction from government around water management, and the provisions in this part show this government doing something that has been required for many, many years, and that is clear leadership around water management.
For Brendan Burns.
Yeah.